Welcome to another episode of The Corner Booth, the official podcast of restaurantowner.com. Today, the restaurant industry is changing faster than ever. Learn from successful independent restaurant operators and other industry leaders as they share best practices that will help you engage your team, delight your guests, and grow your business.
And welcome to another episode of Corner Booth. I'm Chris Tripoli with restaurantowner.com. Restaurantowner.com is the producer and promoter of Corner Booth. For those of you who have not visited restaurantowner.com, I wish you would. You will find that it is simply the greatest resource of information and education specialized and directed to the independent restaurant operator. And today we're bringing you a very successful independent restaurant operator all the way from, I think I'm going to say this right, Murfreesboro,
Tennessee.
That is right. Tennessee, home of tremendous barbecue. One of the most successful hands-on restaurant operators there is Charlie Eblen. Charlie with Single Tree Barbecue, founder, owner, taking some time to talk to us about his story, his concept, and his plans for the future. Charlie, thank you so much for joining us here on Corner Booth.
Chris, I'm honored to be here. I appreciate you asking me to join you and chit-chat for a little while.
Absolutely. Well, we really enjoy people who are willing to share their story. Our listeners continually tell us how this is such an interesting industry because people are willing to share and learn from one another. You and I've had previous conversations. I find what you're doing and what you're planning to do fascinating. We're looking forward to getting into it. But before we do, maybe you could explain to the listeners just a little bit about you, who you are, maybe your early influences, how the heck you got into this business. And let's start with that.
Man, I'm just a little country boy from Tennessee. That's who I am. A husband, a father. I cook barbecue for a living. It's hard to have a bad day. I get to smell hickory smoke and stay warm and eat some pretty good food every once in a while. But I grew up here in Middle Tennessee. Spent a lot of time going to my grandfather's farm in Shelbyville, Bell Buckle, Tennessee, technically. And we did a lot of hanging out, a lot of cooking, a lot of, working on the farm. And end of the day, we'd sit back and have a fire and cook some dinner and try to solve the world's problems. And it just turned into a passion for building community. Papa George was a 28-year Army veteran, retired as a full bird colonel, was honorarily promoted to brigadier general, was an attorney, president of the 4-H club. He ran for Senate, you name it, he did it.
Wow.
Retired as a federal judge.
Oh.
I say retired. He never retired. He worked up until the day he died. But he was a very large influence in my life, and really kind of taught me, unbeknownst to him, taught me that community is everything, and being a servant in our community means more than pretty much anything else you can do. So I've always been that way. Never really realized that how it would come to fruition and how I would end up where I'm at today. Spent 5 years in the Army. Outside of that, I've been in the restaurant business as a dishwasher to an executive on a couple of different C-suite teams, and really tried to impact the restaurant world from a leadership development and training standpoint, and taking care of the next generation of restaurant leaders and hospitality professionals, just by teaching and training and developing their skill sets and trying to continue growing this industry in a different fashion. To give you the short story, and we can dive into details, but the short story is October of 2020, I was fired from my job. My wife looked at me and said, "What the heck are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'll find a job somewhere." She told me not to depend on anybody else and start depending on myself. And
Wow, great encouragement.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was. I don't know if at that point in time, I don't know if my wife or myself really realized what starting your own business meant. I will tell you, I did not know. I thought I did, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. I didn't know I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
I thought I knew how to run restaurants. I thought I was an incredible leader. I thought that I was an incredible cook. I thought that I could do menu development and marketing and payroll and HR and, you know, it was it was a big a big gut punch right after getting fired from your job and learning that you don't know diddly squat about running restaurants. It was a huge gut punch and big lot of humility.
But, that's a good point to make that I hope everyone realizes. Here you are, you already knew you liked the industry. You've
Yeah.
been in it, a worker, manager, leader, developing managers, trainer. And so knowing how to operate, how to cook, how to drive a shift, how to lead staff, you had experience in that. But it is humbling when you then turn the page and say, now I'm going to do it for myself. There's a big difference between working in the business and actually starting a business. I think there's a lot of listeners out there today that are right in that point. They're workers dreaming about opening their first restaurant. So it's really good to hear that even though we might know a lot at that point, we need to learn a lot because opening is a different thing.
The the problem with the hospitality industry and a corporate side today is we don't teach our teams how to actually run a restaurant. We teach our teams how to follow instructions. We teach our teams how to follow the checklist. Uh, we don't show them what it really means to run a business. Hospitality is lost. We mistake people being nice to us as what hospitality is.
Yeah.
And I came into being an entrepreneur by getting kicked off a cliff. I didn't have a choice. And it was, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody is hiring a vice president of a restaurant company in October of 2020. I tried to get a cook job and couldn't get one.
Really?
It was bad. You just didn't have a choice. So you got to figure things out. And one of the biggest things that I've learned, if you try to jump into this business half-hearted, it'll eat you up and spit you out and ask for more. You have to be all in. You have to be it can't just be a pet project. You can't just like to cook.
Yeah.
Uh, one of the best things that I ever did was I named my restaurant company after my grandfather's farm because my grandfather's farm means more to me than anything in this world.
Mhm.
And I don't own it anymore. It's not in my family. So for me, single tree barbecue is the food's just a byproduct. This is my legacy.
Got it.
This is what I will be remembered for. The impact that I make every single day today is what people remember single tree in general, right? So whether it's the farm, whether it's my dad with my grandfather, myself, my kids, the podcast that we have, whatever it may be, the impact that I make every day is far more deeper than just giving you a pulled pork sandwich and some mac and cheese.
Well, and before you got to the point where you're able to offer the pulled pork and the mac and cheese, you made a really good point of a humbling experience, a lot to learn. And this is even though you were really good at already being an experienced restaurant professional. So could you just maybe give us a little overview of how you did it, how you found the site, the difficulty that maybe you had with opening budgets, the raising of funds, the putting the team together, because these things I think people need to realize are a piece of the process that seem to go a lot longer and normally cost more than we originally thought. I don't know. Is that true in your case?
1000%. I feel like I won the lottery. I'm probably one of the luckiest individuals known to man when it comes to the restaurant space and starting a company. We started in a food truck
Gotcha.
and And I will tell you, going from having, I think I had 700 and some odd employees working for me at my last position to there's one employee and it's me,
Yes.
um, is a monumental change. There's nobody to delegate anything to. There's nobody to follow up with. There's nobody to write the prep list. There's nobody to review the budget. It's it's you, right?
Yeah.
And it's all you. And when somebody does something wrong, you have to look in the mirror and you have to realize that, okay, hey, at the end of the month and there's not enough money to pay your bills, you got to figure something out. You can't you can't just go work more hours.
Right.
You have to figure it out. Our first year was excruciatingly painful, and I spent days in January and February where it was 20 something degrees outside and I didn't have any events to go to, and I had to park my truck in the Kroger parking lot and try to sell a barbecue sandwich or two so I could get enough money to get groceries. It was brutal. And days you wake up and you know it's going to be 25 degrees outside and you're about to go stand in it for 12 hours.
Ouch.
It's coming from being in the comforts of your office and, making phone calls and, visiting a restaurant or two and, high-fiving some folks, and then, you're home for dinner and hanging out with the family. It's a cultural change, and it's you have to you go from trying to make others better to fighting for your life.
Yeah.
And even the good days are a fight for your life because you don't know if today might be a great day, but tomorrow might not be a great day. So you have to fight every single day. And it's blood, sweat, and tears, and you can't stop.
Well, and I can tell you that, many a good barbecue product started from a food truck or a food
Yep.
trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a parking lot or at an event. How did yours go then to get the momentum and get into the freestanding building? Was that a long time
Yeah.
coming? When did Single
Yeah.
Tree actually open?
So we opened, we started working on menu and got everything completed and ready to go by the first part of February of 21. We were incorporated, everything was completed in October, but so we had the business, and I was selling that Thanksgiving, I was selling ribs and turkeys and, out of the backyard to try to start the name building.
Yeah.
But that obviously isn't enough to make a viable business out of. We had to get out and start doing things. So in February of 21, we started getting the truck out and doing some testing and getting it going. And then May 1st of 2021 was our official open date with the food truck. And we did that for 2 years. And we would not be who we are today without that experience. I would not be the cook I am. I would not be the leader I am. I wouldn't be the community partner that I am. This community rallied behind me like nobody's business and showed up. And every
Wonderful.
time I was at an event, they sold us out, and it was amazing. Doing those events helped me get deeper involved and deeper rooted into the community because I could go and meet new people. Once we started meeting those people, we got deeper rooted. We started getting other events, other community partners wanted to be involved and help, and be a part of what we were doing. So that helped with getting more catering things. It helped with getting more events and kind of paying the bills.
Yeah.
So along the way, I ended up meeting an individual who had a restaurant. It was more of a bar than anything else. And he did not want to do the food. He was a retired military veteran, had no kitchen experience, no restaurant experience really, more late night and bar kind of stuff. So he opened a place with that in mind for a place for veterans to go and hang out,
Mm.
have a beer, enjoy some live music, but he didn't want to mess with the food. And I met him in, I think it was April of 22, and by the time we got through 22, he had asked me 3 or 4 times if I wanted to partner with him and have a restaurant here in his spot,
Mhm.
and I kept turning it down, and I wasn't really excited about having a restaurant inside of a bar, and I didn't really want another partner, so I was happy with what I had. We just kinda, brushed it off. I was also working with another group out of Kentucky who
Oh,
was interested in buying into the company and helping us grow the brand. So I still had that on the back burner. I was trying to work through that. It didn't we never really came to terms on anything, so I turned that down. In January, no, wasn't January. It's probably December of 22. Sean called me and said, "Hey, I need you to come over. I got an offer you can't refuse.
there you go.
We need to sit down." And I said, "Okay, man." Like,
That's always a nice introduction. The
yeah,
offer you can't refuse.
yeah, I'll come hang out with you, but I can refuse an offer. I can promise you that. So we get over here and we sit down, we start talking, and it was an incredible offer. I was gonna take over the kitchen. I'd have full rights to everything in the kitchen. It's my menu, my restaurant. We would use my POS system. He would keep the server labor on his dime. All he wanted was to keep the alcohol sales.
Excellent.
So I said, "Okay," and then I paid a small portion of the rent.
So that's how Single
So
Tree Barbecue got born in a building, huh?
so that's how we got the brick and mortar, and we were here for about 3 weeks, and I will tell you, I had to relearn my entire life on how to run a food truck, and then I had to relearn again how to run a restaurant.
Okay.
So, I developed my menu originally for a full service barbecue restaurant and cut that down to where it made sense in a food truck.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
lot of things that didn't make sense for a one person, one operator food truck.
Sure,
Have
sure.
3 different stations. The restaurant was much bigger than the food truck. We went from 144 square feet to 1,800,
Mhm.
and so now I'm back in a restaurant, but my menu's gotta expand a little bit, but I still just have me and one other person now.
Yes.
So we had to do some re-engineering, and it is now we've been here in the restaurant now for 3 years, and I'm just now getting the menu to where it needs to be.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. How you got the menu to where you feel like it hits, target, and what are the key elements of your offering?
So we are 100% barbecue through and through. I have always been a real big fan. My seasoning needs to match my sauce. My sauce needs to match the meats. The
Yeah.
meats need to match the sides. The sides need to match the meats, etc. The profile of my menu has to coexist, right? It has to be able to mingle well together. The mac and cheese has got to be able to go with the pork and the brisket and the ribs and the sausage and the turkey and all the things. So it was very important to me to not screw that up.
It's
Uh,
really good to hear that there is that thought because I just think that when it comes to barbecue, there's too many people that just assume it's just all about smoked meat. Give me some coleslaw potato salad and I'm done, without really understanding that there really is a process, much like with any other menu, of making sure the seasoning and the sauce and the right side matches the right prime product. That's a very good point.
I'll put it to you this way: I bought a sausage that I'm not a real good sausage maker. I've tried my entire life and I've never been real good at it. I have a recipe for one. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I needed some tweaks. So instead of taking guys that had never cooked before, because when we first opened the restaurant, I hired 4 people to help me out, and none of them have ever worked in a kitchen.
Okay.
And so I was having to teach them how to hold knives, how to sweep, how to mop, how to wash dishes, let alone how to cook anything. So thankfully, I did barbecue, so I can do all the smoking, and then they can put everything on a plate. So it was easier, but it's still very difficult when somebody's never held a knife before.
Sure.
So I wanted to make sure that I could do everything right, and I wanted to make sure that everything was consistent.
Mhm.
Because if you come into a barbecue joint today and you get the brisket and it is phenomenal, and then you come in tomorrow and it's not any good,
Right.
everybody that came in tomorrow is not gonna come back and see you. So, I
Exactly.
would rather be sold out of a product than sell something that's crappy.
Mhm.
Uh, and I would rather take the $100 hit in food cost than have 10 people come in and have a bad experience. So, we spent a lot of time. Geez, it took me probably 2 years to get the team that I have today that has some culinary knowledge and some
Okay.
background to be able to not only I'm a good cook, I'm not a chef, and I know what I like.
Sure.
I also know what taste profiles that I'm looking for, but I don't have the experience to be able to go, "Oh, well, that needs to be turmeric," or,
Yeah.
"No, we don't need to use that. We need to use apple cider vinegar, not distilled vinegar."
Mhm.
No, we don't need to cook that because that'll change the flavor of the vinegar when we pickle our pickles. So, if you're looking for that, great, then it'll mute it, but and I have a ton of knowledge, but I'm not an expert.
Sure.
So and I'm also running the marketing, and I'm also doing the payroll, and I'm also working on the books, and I'm also doing this, and I'm also doing that. And then I'm married and I have two little boys and a 19-year-old as well. So, my brain's in a lot of different places. I may not be the perfect one to be working on menu development every day of the week.
Well,
So,
that's the interesting thing that I've found in barbecue is that you don't have to
yeah,
be culinary trained or whatnot. You just have to set your own direction,
yeah,
and it sounds like you did. Are you able to do that product with, say, beef ribs and pork ribs and brisket and turkey,
yeah.
or are you a little bit more limited? I don't know.
So now at this point, we do everything here in the restaurant. So I have a full barbecue menu. It is pork ribs. We have beef ribs 1 day a week. We have brisket, pork, chicken halves. We do smoked turkeys. We make our own sausage. We do everything in the restaurant.
Oh,
Uh,
you're all over it. And, I love the barbecue, the smoked chicken halves. I mean, I realize you measure barbecue, or most people do, by, how you get that bark and how tender the brisket is, and I love that too, but I don't know, call me an oddball, but I'm typically drawn to a half chicken. I just I l that's my personal fave.
I we we did quarter chickens to begin with, and I was never happy with the product. It was good. There was nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't it wasn't it wasn't, "Oh my goodness," good, right? It wasn't, "Wow."
Yeah,
So I came up with a brine and decided to do half chickens. It cost me I think it was another $7 per plate to be able to do a half chicken versus a quarter chicken. The food cost is still amazingly good on it.
that's
So
good.
I can give you a half chicken. It costs me a little bit more money. I do a brine on it for 48 hours before we smoke it, and then we smoke it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It's super juicy. It comes out consistent every single time because of the brine that we use is super simple, and the smoking process is super simple. We use the same rub, so it's all very systematically done and comes out really well. So I'm
That's
excited.
good.
Yeah.
And so are you lunch and dinner, same menu, 7 days a week, or are your hours a little different? Because, obviously you gotta tell us a little bit about the market you are, smaller
Yeah.
market, the customer that you attract.
We are technically a smaller market. I'm currently open 7 days a week. We were open 6 days a week. So I was open 11 until 8 Tuesday through Saturday. And then on
Mhm.
Sundays, I would open up just for lunch. Now we are open Monday through Saturday, 11 to 8, and then we close early on Sundays for after lunch. So
Excellent.
it gives my team time to have a little bit of free time on Sunday nights, and they don't have to work, and Sunday nights are typically pretty slow. I'm in a strip center, which kind of affects traffic on the weekends. We're busier Monday through Friday than we are on a Saturday and Sunday. Sundays are really slow. There's not hardly anybody on this side of town on Sundays. So uh,
Mhm.
Sunday we open up for church crowds and let them come in and have dinner and our lunch rather, and then we clean up and get on out of here. So to start with, I didn't open on Mondays, and that was just a day for me to be able to rest. Uh,
Yes.
I was working 7 days a week, but having a day where the restaurant's closed and I can just kind of fiddle around and get stuff cleaned and get some projects done and not have to worry about a having service made it just made my day so much easier. I could come in here at 5 and be done by noon, and that would be my day off. So, but now we have a good team.
Good.
They're here, and I don't have to be here every day of the week. So
So has that given you the opportunity to maybe sort of, I don't know, broaden your segment? Do you do a lot of online order delivery, off-premise catering, that kind of thing?
So we are on every platform from a third party delivery standpoint, Easy Cater as well. In today's world, the DoorDashes and the Uber Eats of the world are a must. It's not even a nice to thing to have anymore. It's a have to. I would say last time I checked, which I haven't looked at January's numbers yet, but for December, 47% of my business was to go. So
Interesting. Wow.
it's very, very, very large amount of businesses to go for us. You know, being able to the team that I have now has allowed me to spend time on the media side of my company. We officially formed a media company this year. It's been kind of unofficial for the last probably 18 months, but I just I just named it last week, it's called Coop Road Media. We'll be the parent company for Single Tree Nation, which is our ESPN radio show and podcast. So I spend a lot of time working on that as well. My wife tells me that every time I have the ability to free up 5 hours a week in my schedule, I find 6 hours a week to go spend on something else. So it never stops. But
No, that's interesting, and that kinda gets us into a good next step. I really appreciate you talking about the early time, the concepting, the switch from modifying to work in the trailer and the truck to then switch to get into the restaurant deal. We got a pretty good picture of the restaurant, the offering, the hours, the customer, but now you gotta take us into this exciting next step. How did you begin to get into the media side of things? How does that market? You're doing some really good things. How did all of that start and actually wound up forming a separate media company?
Chris, I will tell you, we have a mutual friend by the name of Sean Walchef.
Mhm, yes.
Sean is has an uncanny way to shove people off a cliff into doing things. And so I met Sean back when we just had the food truck. And he honestly is the one that got me into the social media stuff and going live on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all the things. I think when I met him, I had 27 followers on TikTok. And nobody.
Yeah.
I had an account so I could check my kids and make sure that they were doing what they were supposed to. One thing led to another. I started doing a lot of media. Got on all the local news stations, really started pushing hard on my social media, went live quite often. I need to get back to doing that more. It really helped build the community, which started helping me get more opportunities to come tell my story, more shows to be on, more podcasts to talk about, radio shows, etc. And in doing so, I started feeling that Not that I was getting good at it, because I was not good at it at all, but I was enjoying being able to have a platform to tell my story.
Right.
And the more I did that, the more I thought, man, how many entrepreneurs in this world, how many restaurateurs, how many barbecue guys, how many veterans, business owners here in town do I know that would die for a chance to be able to tell their story? No matter how big or how small the platform was, I would love that. So
Yeah.
one of the shows, or a couple of the shows that I went on, was the same producer was doing them. And I asked him, I said, "Hey man, what, out of just curiosity, if I wanted to start a show, what all does that entail? Do I got to pay you up front? Do I got to give you enough money for the year? What's the contract? The whole deal. Who owns it? Everything that I was trying to understand and kind of learn a little bit about media. And what I found was, by starting my own show, I'm giving people a platform to come tell their stories, and I'm able to serve my community in a way that there's not many people around here that are.
There you go.
I'm giving people free media coverage on a platform that they may never have thought about.
Sure.
So one thing led to another. We are now somewhere in the 120th episode of my show, Single Tree Nation. And one of the things that I've learned about being an entrepreneur, that I've probably already knew, but it just really kind of hit me hard, was you just have to ask the question. And if
Mhm.
you ask, the worst thing that can happen is the person will tell you no. That is the absolute worst that can happen. If you say, "Hey,
Sure.
man, would you like to be on my show?" Or, "Hey, can I be a guest on your show?"
Right.
Or, "Hey, I have a podcast. Do you think we can put it on ESPN radio?" If you ask, you'll get an answer,
Mhm.
and it may be not right now. It might be yes. It might be, "I don't know, tell me more." But either way, now you've accomplished more than just asking the question. Now you're building a connection with someone else that knew nothing about you.
And you did this early on,
I did.
in your restaurant, freestanding restaurant part anyway, because, you've only been there, what now, 2, 3 years?
3 years, May 1st,
Yeah.
technically, but,
So you
tomorrow
were,
will be the actual 3-year anniversary.
yeah. So before 3 years old, stepping out to tell your story, jump over the cliff in media, and develop your own program. That's a monstrous step, especially for somebody who is, again, in your relative, young years building the
Oh,
operation. That was
I still
fantastic.
feel like I'm in the infancy stage, and I'll tell you, Chris, where it really hit me was I went on TikTok Live one time, and this is when I really realized that media was turning, and it was changing, and how people consumed media was changing. I went on TikTok Live, and I told people that if you mention this TikTok Live at my food truck, I'll give you a free bottle of barbecue sauce. And over a 4-week time period, that statement earned me $5,000 in revenue,
Wow. Wow.
just by going on TikTok and telling people to come by, not come by, come get. If you buy
Yeah.
something from me and tell me you heard this, I'll give you a free bottle of barbecue sauce. And it's amazing to me. We have the device in our hands. Everybody's got an iPhone. Everybody's got a cell phone that they can turn on. You don't have to have some fancy studio. You don't have to record on some fancy device. You got a computer in your hand. Turn it on. Start recording and post it. You're gonna
What a
feel the
good lesson. What a
yeah,
good lesson, I think, for every single unit, hardworking, hands-on restaurant operator that's out there today, to just kinda dwell on what you said, because there was a time when we didn't have that in our hand.
yeah.
There was a lot of people in the restaurant industry that were sort of stuck in that what I still call traditional media, thinking, no, 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 marketing is just advertising. I got to buy ads. I got to have billboards. Got to have a radio campaign. Well, first off, you don't, and secondly, Lord have mercy, that stuff's expensive. And see, what you're talking about is not as expensive. It's just utilizing the tools that you've got and tell the story yourself using your handheld, and it's obviously been working.
It's no one is coming to tell your story for you.
Good.
And even the ones that do tell your story may not get it right. So you have to be louder than everybody else. And 2026 for me is just about that. It is one of my missions this year is to be the loudest guy in the room. And not from an obnoxious standpoint, not from trying to be arrogant or any other reason than just to be able to make sure that everybody can hear my story. Everybody understands that look, I didn't start a restaurant company to become a millionaire. You're not going to get rich over on a
Mhm.
one unit. It's not going to happen. We want to continuously grow. We want to get better. But what that means for me is to be able to make a bigger impact in the world.
Okay.
I wanna be able to leave and people know that we are the Nike of barbecue, and uh,
Wow.
and just like Phil Knight, we're here to improve the community that we serve every day.
Great example to follow. So
E
how do you
e
do that? I mean, you've moved so quickly, truck, restaurant, successful restaurant. I love the to-go, the catering, the media, and you're only in year 3.
Yep.
What's next? How do you keep the momentum building? What are you working on now in order to, you know, continue your next steps?
The biggest thing is to not quit. You can't beat a guy that doesn't quit. It's been one of my mantras most of my life. Derek Jeter said it, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. If you put one foot in front of the other every single day, you will move forward. The hard part is figuring out what you need to move forward on, right? Running a business is just like any other relationship. There's seasons that it goes through, and you get better and better, and you continuously grow, and you continuously get your team better. When you continuously get your team better, then that allows you to go do other things because they are handling things that you used to handle. And for us, we are continuously working on the podcast and trying to grow that show into a major media form for the community. We're on ESPN every Saturday and Sunday for 2026. I hope 2027 that we're on ESPN 5 days a week, right? If I could make
Wow.
a Monday through Friday show, that would be amazing. To do that takes time and it takes effort, and you have to start recognizing the things you don't know. And
Mhm.
for me, I don't know enough about media to be able to tell you what's good and what's bad. What I do know is when I have a hiccup, I make a note of it. And I put a plan in place to make sure that hiccup doesn't have it happen anymore. Me and my co-host rewatch every single show twice. We look at the raw footage, and then we go back and watch the edited footage. So that gives us a raw take of what we sound like, and then, okay, well, how can we tweak that to when it's finished? We we work on what we post, and we're strategically about that. Uh,
Mhm.
we have 2 social media clips that will go out every week this year. One will be our Friday feel good, and one will be an intro teaser to every show. So I'm going to do that specifically because I want you to know who's on the show and tease the show so you can go watch it or listen to it. And then the Friday feel good is an impact. I want people to look at my social media not because they're hungry, but because it makes an impact in their day. Because they feel better after seeing something on my channel. I feel as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, it is our responsibility. It's not a nice to, it's not a want to, it's a responsibility to impact the community that we live in. And for us, it is more important than anything else to make sure that we do that the right way and that we leave our community a better place than the way we found it. So we are being very strategic and very thoughtful of how we're going about growth. The restaurant side, I want to grow immensely, but I'm being very strategic about that as well. I probably won't be able to grow more units by myself for a few more years unless I get some capital,
Right.
some partners, which is fine. I don't mind that, but it has to be the right partner, and there has to be a complete understanding that I'm in this to make money. I wouldn't start a business to lose money by any means, but money is not my driving factor. The impact in our community is the driving factor, and my community can be as large as the world. It doesn't have to be Rutherford County, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, but the impact that we have in making the place better is my number one priority.
What a great priority. And you know what it sounds like, and if the formula works correctly, and it has been for you, it works just like you said. Money doesn't have to be the drive. If the drive is the passion and to make impact, positive impact, grow through the community, then what happens is the money is the result. It's not the drive, it's the result. Your business grows, people love you, you wind up selling more. So yay, you're successful, but you're successful because you led with passion, interest, and community, and profit then was the result of that. So a great lesson of the day. I understand what you're saying too. Sometimes to grow a brand doesn't necessarily mean more units or more units on your own. It could mean raising money, could mean you might find some interest in other companies. You might find interest in doing licenses. You might find interest in retailing product, seasonings and sauces. Do you think we might see Single Tree getting into that business?
We're very much in that business.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we both my hot sauce and my original barbecue sauce are already bottled. We're working with the co-packer currently. Had a conversation with him yesterday about our white sauce, and then we will be putting together a competition sauce as well. So it'll be a 4-pack.
Mhm.
The original, the cop sauce, the hot sauce, and the white sauce that we will be going for. And then I have to reach back out to a couple of grocery stores that are interested in stocking it on their shelves. Publix is probably the most interested, but it is difficult to get it into Publix because the
Sure.
people that are in Publix don't wanna leave. So, it has to be they're getting rid of somebody or somebody's decided to not re-up their contract for us to get in there. So, last year they didn't lose anybody, but we will see what happens next month, so in March.
Well, and I keep my fingers crossed, wish you the best there. The one thing that I am hearing from very large companies, Publix, others, is they've had tremendous success with regionalized offerings. There seems to be a growing segment of the shoppers that react well to not just the national brands, but the regionals. And so that means different stores will have different brands, different areas are promoting different local products. I, of course, love that because it opens up the doors for that smaller hands-on baker, seasoning maker, hot sauce maker, chip maker, and I'm always attracted to those brands. So I'll keep my fingers crossed, and I hope that you'll be one of those lucky guys that gets that little bit of shelf space in the local regional offerings of a place as big as Publix.
It would be crazy to see my products on the shelf of a major chain like that. So, we come from humble beginnings here in Murfreesboro, and I am blessed and highly favored to be able to do what I love every single day.
Well, for those of us who are listening who are not close to Murfreesboro, maybe you could tell everyone how they can learn more about Singletree, how they could contact you, where they can go visit to learn more about the programs that you're doing. So, take it away.
Yeah. You can go to my website, www.singletreebbq.com. There is a lot of information there from the story down to the podcast. You can reach out to me directly at charlie@singletreebbq.com. You can call me here at the restaurant, 615-307-0120. We are located at 2805 Old Fort Parkway. I'm here in Murfreesboro, open Monday through Saturday, 11 to 8. 11 to 3 on Sundays. You can find all the information you want online. All of the social media handles are at Singletree BBQ or Charlie Eblen, one of the two. So
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, listen, listeners, we are going to have to wind it up for today. Charlie, thank you so much for sharing your story, the tidbits that you've learned, how you're meeting today's challenges. Very excited about the plans for your future. Appreciate you sharing that with us, and we wish you continued success. For you listeners out there, go check out restaurantowner.com, and we hope that you make it a great shift and that we will cross paths real soon on another Corner Booth.
Thank you for joining us on the Corner Booth. We'll be back next Tuesday with more inspiration, insights, and industry best practices to help you engage your team, delight your guests, and grow your business.